Hi friends, it's Terri Gaines. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share a Country Birdhouse pop-up easel card with you. The bundle I'm using is the Country Birdhouse bundle, which is the stamp set and the dies bundled together for 10% savings, or you can purchase them separately. The stamp set has 13 images. Some of the images can be cut out with the dies. You have some sentiments, a background stamp, and then some images that can help you decorate the birdhouse. There's 23 dies in the die set, along with the dies to cut out the images. You have some dies for some floral images, and then some die images that will help you decorate the birdhouse. The designer series paper I'm using for this project is the Country Woods 12 by 12 paper. I love using this paper for so many of my paper crafting projects, but especially the birdhouse dies. And there's 2 each of the 6 double-sided prints. They are all wood grain prints in a variety of different colors, and any of them are going to work out great to create birdhouses with. What I'm going to do is give you all the measurements and all the tips so you can duplicate this project. I will have a PDF on my blog that will have all the measurements, the supplies I used, and a video or a link to this video tutorial. The beauty of the video tutorial is you can pause it, you can rewind, you can rewatch, and my goal is to give you everything you need to recreate this project. I'm going to start out with the birdhouse measurements and scoring the paper for the birdhouse. I'm using this design. It is double-sided. I'm going to have this be my front of the birdhouse. Actually, it's going to be the front and the back. It's 9 inches by 3.5. I'm going to score it at 4 inches, and I'm going to use the largest end of the stylus. So I'm going to score it at 4 inches, at 4.5, and at 5. When I score designer series paper, I score both sides. So I'm going to flip it this way and score those same locations on the other side. Now I'm going to score 2 more pieces of paper, and then we'll come back to the birdhouse. For the roof, we need quantity 2 of a 1 3/4 by 2 1/4. For this roof, I like the rough pieces. I like to cut my designer series paper at 1 3/4, leave it the 12 inches, do all the scoring, and then cut it at the 2 1/4. So I have a 1 3/4 by 12 piece. I'm going to score it at 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to score it at 7/8 of an inch. And I'm going to score it at 1 3/8. Again, I'm going to flip it over and score the other side. The reason I score both sides of my designer series paper is it's going to be folding some mountains, some valleys, and by burnishing both sides, it actually breaks the fibers down and just works out well, I think, if you burnish both sides. So now we'll cut this in a moment. Now since I have this tool here, I'm going to score the card base. The card base is 11 by 4 1/4. It is scored at 4.5 and at 9. Now this both folds are going to be folded in one direction like a valley, and then they're going to rotate to a mountain. So I'm going to burnish both sides of this card base as well, flip it over and score the other side at 4 and 9 inches. I'm going to move this out of the way for now, and we're going to go back to the birdhouse. So for the birdhouse, we have our 3 score lines in there. I already mentioned this is going to be the front of my birdhouse, or the outside. I'm going to fold the score to be mountain, valley, and mountain. So I'm going to fold it like this. When I fold designer series paper on the score lines, I only use my fingers. I don't use a bone folder because I don't want to break those fibers down so much that they crack. So I just use my fingers to fold those. So this is going to be the outside, so front and back. So we have a score line like this is going to be the bottom. Now before I cut the birdhouse out of this, I'm going to put adhesive in these 2 small panels here. I'm going to use the tear and tape. If you don't use the tear and tape, you're going to put your adhesive on when you assemble it. I'm going to use the tear and tape because then what I can do is peel this backing layer off when I'm ready to adhere it. That's the beauty of tear and tape. You can tear it, or use your paper snips to trim it, but it stays on here. This backing stays on here, protects the adhesive until you're ready to peel it off. So I'm going to put mine on ahead of time, and I'm going to refold those. Then I'm going to take this Birdhouse die, and I'm going to set it down that the bottom is right on these fold lines. And when I cut this out, I am going to make sure that that cutting blade does not cut the paper. I'm going to have that lip, that cutting part of the die off the paper. So what I'm going to do is just bring my platform in and kind of show you. I'm going to set my platform down here. I'm going to make sure that that cutting blade does not cut the paper. I'm going to look for equal spacing on the side here, put my other plate on here, and run it through my die cutting machine. If you don't cut that bottom, you retain all of those score lines. And I'm going to bring in, just like the cooking show, now I've retained all those score lines down there. What I also did ahead of time is I took this die. This will create an opening for your birdhouse. So I placed this down, cut that out, so I have an opening for the birdhouse. So that part is done for now. Now we're going to go back to this roof piece. So I've scored this roof piece, and as I mentioned, it's 1 3/4. I kept it 12 inches. It's equal panels on the sides, equal panels in the middle. We're going to fold one of those, or each of those outside to be mountain and the inside to be valley. So I'm going to go ahead and use my fingers to fold this. Now this is 12 inches in length, so we'll be able to get more than one out of here, get a couple sets of birdhouses. So we have it like this. So this is the outside. We've got the 2 end panels, so mountain, valley, mountain. Now before I cut these to the 2 1/4 inch length, I'm going to also put the tear and tape on here. So I'm going to put tear and tape on the very end panel. It is 3/8 of an inch in width, and the tear and tape is about 1/4 inch, so you have just enough spacing to put that on. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on both end panels. This is my favorite adhesive to work with when I'm working with 3D type projects. It's very strong. So there we have that. So now that that's on there, you can take this to a paper cutter and cut a 2 1/4 inch length and a second 2 1/4 inch length. So I've got that done ahead of time. So I've cut 2 of them. You've got more paper left over to create another birdhouse roof. So we have those 2. Now these roof pieces are going to go right in here. So if we were to sandwich that like the folds are and put them like this, we can see that they overlap, and we need to clean that up so they don't overlap. The way I do it is I take one of these, and what I'm going to do is hold it like this. Take this die. This die works perfect and lines up the roof line, the right angle. I find that if I take this die, have it flush against this side, and this is the outside, flush on this small panel, flush along this side, and hold these together. Then I can take my paper snips, and my goal is to get this angle cut from this point to this point. So if I take my paper snips and aim towards the bottom of the die, so I get the right angle. If I hold it like that, take the die out of the way, now extend my blade to the point of the paper, then I'm going to get a pretty good angle to match up here. Both of these are this is going to work out for either side, so I'm going to repeat that for this side. So if I was going to hold it like this, line this up to this edge, I'm right-handed. I'm not going to be able to cut with my left hand, so I'm going to rotate it like this. So it's basically doing the very same thing I did to that first one. Flush here, flush there, hold it with my left hand, so I can take the paper snips with my right hand, and that's going to get me the angle there. Now this is a birdhouse. If it's not perfect, that's okay. It's not going to be a problem. So now we have these cut. Now if I bring this, you can see now when these line up, they don't interfere with each other and they're going to work out really well. So I'm going to attach this one first. So what I'm going to do is take my backing off and peel that off the back side. I'm keeping it on the front side. I'm going to look to match the point up to the top there and line the edge up like so. So now I have that part attached. I'm going to repeat it for this side. Now peel that off and look for spacing here. Now I have that attached like so. So now we've got that roof attached. Now to attach it to this side, I accordion fold that down, take these backing pieces off, and then what I do is I have this accordion folded like that. I start from the bottom and I get this flush and place the tip of that birdhouse down, line that piece up down that way, line that piece up that way. Now you've attached the roof to the birdhouse. So we have that attached. Now it's the decorating. I have decorative images for the birdhouse. I have 2 of these pieces. This is the die I used to help get that angle cut. I have 2 of those, one for the front and one for the back. And then I have a die that's going to create these 2. Now for these top 2 pieces, it's narrower. What I like to do is use adhesive sheets for those smaller pieces. Adhesive sheets come in a package, 12 in a package. They're 6 by 12 in size. And I cut one to 6 by 6. I cut my designer series paper to 6 by 6 as well. So when I work with these, I cut my paper and my adhesive sheet the same size. I like bringing in the Simply Scoring tool when I work with this because I like the wall in the corner here to work with these. So adhesive sheet goes on the back side of your paper. So this is my top side. So I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to attach it to the back side. With the adhesive sheet, you're going to find these panels will peel off. So they're 2-inch wide. I have a 6 by 6 piece, so I have 3 of them here. I'm going to only peel one of these off. Let me get that going here. And then I'm going to, these have the backing on. I'm going to hold, this is adhesive. I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to push this up against that wall until it and move it till it hits that wall. Let this fall into place so my adhesive lines up and adheres here. Then I like to fold this back, get that middle section peeled off, adhere that, and then do that last panel and adhere that. Now what we have when you do this is you have your designer series paper, you have a backing, and between the 2 you have adhesive. So then you will take your die, put this right side up like this, die cut this, and when you die cut it, you're going to have a peel off backing and adhesive on those pieces. So I did that for both of these. Now I'm going to attach one to the front and one to the back. So I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool to help me get that backing to start coming off here. And as I mentioned, now that's got adhesive on it. And I'm going to, sometimes this doesn't go as smoothly. I have a darker color trying to cover up that pool party. I'm going to put that side down first, and then I've got some space here. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to angle cut these pieces down here. So we've got this visible. We're gonna let that go. So I forgot to tell you, I'm gonna keep mine like this, but if you have not created this yet, maybe you can see what I'm doing. I forgot a step. Do you see that little piece here? I forgot to tell you, once we angle cut those 2 pieces, then what I like to do is I like to take this corner off right here. I usually hold that up and trim that. I totally missed that portion. So if you are like mine, have mine, if you've already got this far, you can peel that off and maybe just snip that piece off. You understand what I'm trying to say? This tab is showing. So we've got two options. Because it has adhesive on, I'm going to have to cut that off. So my videos are unedited, and sometimes I miss a step and start over. And I'm not going to start my video over. This would, if I was doing this presentation, this demonstration in person, and this happened, we would have to resolve it, right? You don't toss your project, you just figure out how you can save your project. So now that's cut off. But as I mentioned, if you, if you cut that piece and then bring these together, and you can see I cut that angle off. So I had prepared these, but I didn't follow through. So that will be good. So learning lessons, right? Sometimes we learn those mistakes. We learn best from having the mistakes. Now I do have some visible pool party there. I'm going to live with that because this is a birdhouse, and if you wanted to, you can trim that off. Let's turn it to the back. So as I mentioned, my videos are not edited. I'm not going to try to get this blooper out of the video. I'm just going to have a workaround for you. Just snip it off with your paper snips. So now I'm going to take that adhesive backing off the other side, the other piece, and try to get that to line up. And there we go. So we've got that roof line on the back side. We've got our expansion roof there. Now I have die cut the pieces for here. I did not use adhesive sheet because it's wide enough to use our seal or whatever your favorite adhesive is. So I'm going to bring in my silicone craft mat. I'm going to put adhesive on the back side of these two pieces, and I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal. So I'm going to one at a time. Now I'm going to put this flush to the bottom and have this line up to cover up that bottom portion and add some more decoration to that birdhouse. I'm going to repeat that for the other side and line this up like so. All right, so we've got that adhered. So I do have some flowers to decorate the birdhouse. I'm going to add that later. And then we have this little pole we're going to put on there too. We're going to do that later. So now we're going to attach this inside the card. It gets attached at this end. But what we want to do before we attach it is we want to cut this bottom section. So this center tab, between the two tabs that have the adhesive on them, we're going to take a paper snips and cut that. I'm going to cut that right so you have two separate pieces here. What we're also going to do is cut these points off. So if you want to duplicate this card, I would suggest that you do cut that off. We're just going to cut those off because they're going to be visible, and we don't really want those to show at a point like that on the inside of the card. So now we're ready to put this in the card. So we've already scored the card base. It was 11 by 4 1/4. It's scored at 4 1/2 and at 9. When I fold these, I am going to burnish them with my bone folder. So I'm going to turn that side in, then I'm going to turn this one and crease that. I already mentioned that I scored both sides of the paper because this card is going to open like this. It's going to open like this, and we're also going to bend it the other direction. So I think it's best to go ahead and burnish it in both directions before we start assembly. Now this card is going to open up. This is going to be the top. This is a front panel, and it's going to open up like this. So what I'm going to have you do when you create this card is set this down. We're going to open it up like so. This equal panel here and here is right where the birdhouse is going to be attached. So I would set your birdhouse like this. The front is facing you, and face it down. So you are having the front of the birdhouse down on the first panel. You're going to look for equal spacing on both sides, and then you're going to move this so these bottom pieces, whichever one is the longest, is up to the score line, not on it and not over it, just up to the score line. Take the backing off of just this one piece or put your adhesive on there. Hold this and close that down on the adhesive. It's going to adhere to that side and flip over to this side. Then you're going to take the backing off of this piece or put your adhesive down, and then you're going to close this onto the birdhouse like so. So now that's attached. So we have that so far. So now what we're gonna do is, how this easel card works is we're not done here. We'll finish this. It's going to open up like this, and then it's going to become an easel like this, and your birdhouse is going to stand way above the card base. So what I'm going to have you do is hold it like this, and now we're going to attach this right here. I did put adhesive sheet behind this piece, so you have an option of attaching it this way or rotating it. I like to attach it this way. So I'm going to place it right down like this. And be sure it adheres just to the card base, not to the birdhouse. Now for these measurements, I do have a sentiment layer. I say it's 4 by 3.5 max. That's for this size down here. What I chose to do was to use the Countryside Corner dies to create labels for my sentiment. So that sentiment layer, I have it slightly smaller, and I'm going to adhere it right like so. Now I used a different stamp set. I used a stamp set called Magnolia Mood. Let me show you I liked the sentiments in this stamp set. I love the stamp set too, and I love the dies that go with it. But I have happy birthday for the outside of the card, and just a note to let you know that you are loved for the inside of the card. So this is the inside of the card. I do have some flowers that I die cut already, and I've got them attached with some mini glue dots. I'm going to attach this flower right here, and that's going to be our inside part of the card decorated. So as I mentioned, this card is going to be like this on the outside. I have a outside decorative layer with designer series paper. I'm going to put this paper, and it's on the bottom section of this card front. So I hope this isn't confusing. Like I mentioned earlier, the beauty of the video is you can pause it, you can rewind, and the goal is to be able to let you recreate this card. So I'm putting my adhesive down on this section. I'm not worrying about up there because that gets covered up. Now, what we need to do is create a stopper, a label stopper, and we need a card latch. This little flower is going to be my card latch. This label and the happy birthday, which are also from the Countryside labels, Countryside Corner dies, are going to be my stopper. So the stopper goes on this front panel. Now I am going to tell you that you want the stopper to be as far from this fold line as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a strip of tear and tape. It's a 1/4 inch right here. So I'm putting it here, and I'm going to attach this label right to that, so it's hanging over. Now, I already opened the card once, but I didn't have the stopper on there. So an easel card has a stopper, and this is going to be the stopper. The stopper is what holds the card open and in the easel position. Now I have this just slightly attached there, and now as I open this up, you open it up and it flips this way. This is where the stopper is going to be. What I'm going to do now is attach the stopper. This is the base to the stopper. The stopper is going to be needs to be attached with dimensionals. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to go ahead, I think I'll put 4 dimensionals on here. You want to be sure you put more than 2. I have enough space here. I can put 4. This needs to be strong, and it needs to be popped up because it needs to really be the along with the stopper, it's a little lip on here that will hold that. So I'm going to put this right in the center of my label. And as I mentioned, it's going to stop that and allow this card to stand in the easel position. So that is the card. Now we do have the card latch, what I'm calling. So as we close this card, one more thing I'm going to do. This isn't in the measurements, but this part's going to be hidden. It's down. If you want to added space where you would sign your card, this panel is perfect. I'm going to add this blank label. This is where you would sign the card, put your message. So when they open up the card, you can have your signature there. But when you close the card, or when the card stands, it's kind of hidden there. So does that make sense? You can do that. All right, I probably have confused you totally because I'm going back and forth. Let's go back to the card latch. When this card closes, it really needs something to help latch it and close it. This flower is going to do the trick. I'm going to take a mini dimensional and put it behind this little flower die. I already have the embellishment on there. And this is going to allow us to just overlap a little bit of this label to catch that label. So it's kind of a card latch that's going to hold it. Now you can flex that a little bit to open it up. And as you open up this card, it's going to stand and go on that label stopper. And then you have your easel pop-up card. I hope you enjoyed this project. I know it's a little bit of a process to create them. And if you are interested, a few weeks ago, I also did a birdhouse pop-up that doesn't have the easel, but it just pops up on the inside. I will have a video tutorial, the link in the comment section of this video. The birdhouse assembly is very much the same for these cards as well. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I do have the PDF available with the measurements and a link to this video. The video is your instructions and the details for creating this card. And you can find that at on my blog. If you found me via YouTube, there's a direct link in the text portion of this video. And I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Take care and happy creating.